Hello, this is Dwayne Groom here again, and I'm your guide through this 8-week productivity challenge. So I want to know, how was your week? Personally, I want to congratulate you on making it through the toughest part of the program. The first few weeks are hardest because of the commitment and accountability, but once you break through that, we can start to build some great habits. So congratulate yourself. You deserve it. I want to take a moment to tell you something. I want to tell you what I think the difference is between a pessimist and an optimist. The pessimist looks for difficulty in every opportunity, and the optimist looks for the opportunity in every difficulty. And there's a story that I've heard that I'd like to tell you, and it goes like this. There is a university professor. There's 2 6-year-old boys. There is 2 meeting rooms. And in one of the meeting rooms, they put a whole bunch of toys. And in the other room, there's a pile of manure. And they take the pessimist, the 6-year-old boy that's just, he just thinks that nothing works. And they put him in a room full of, yes, new toys, not just old toys, but some new toys. And they leave him in there for an hour. And in the other room where there's a pile of manure, they put the 6-year-old boy that's an optimist, that's always looking for an opportunity to have some fun. And they put him in there with a pile of horse manure. And, after an hour, the professor opens up the door where the pessimist is, and they see him sitting in the corner, and he's not happy. In fact, he says nothing works, and he starts complaining about every toy, every game, every single thing in there. It's really interesting, because when they went into the other room, they open up the door, and all they see is 2 little feet sticking out of the pile of manure. And they go running in there, think there's an emergency, and they pull the kid out of there. And he stands up, and he shakes himself off, and he looks back at them, and he says, "Hey, what are you doing? There's got to be a pony in there somewhere." I think that's pretty funny because, the optimist always looks for the opportunity in every difficulty. So really, what we have to do is figure out which part of us is going to shine in this program, because there's a little bit of a pessimist in us. There's a little bit of an optimist in us. What you need to do is look for every opportunity and every difficulty, because this program isn't easy. But having never quit attitude will get you further all the time. So last week your assignment was this: go to the office early, 9 a.m. each day, and prospect a minimum of 5 days a week. Also, to book at least 3 listing appointments a week. This is the most important part of the program. Opportunities. Remember, your job this week was to book appointments. Okay, let's get started into lesson 2. So back in lesson 1, we went over the 8 keys to success, and number 1 was attitude. Today I want to start with number 2, which is booking appointments. So let me ask you this, though. What is a prospect? What is a prospect? Well, it's someone who is ready, willing, and able to sign a contract when? Today. I always say, if not, they're a suspect. So how do we generate leads? I've got 2 methods to generate leads and 10 ways. And what I'd like to do is just start talking about proactive first. There's 5 of them. Number 1 is community involvement. Number 2 is door knocking. Number 3 is open houses. Number 4 is for sale by owners and expireds. And number 5, which I believe is the number 1 way, I would call it warm calling your sphere of contacts, or calling neighbor to listings or neighbor to sales. So that's the proactive way. But I believe that the best way to do business is for them to come to you. So even though last week we started talking about proactive, picking up the phone, doing a few things, and you could have done some open houses or door knocking. We didn't talk about that, but we will today. But I believe the best way to do business, especially in today's market with the no-call list and the Privacy Act, is what I call reactive. And reactive is when you do things like this. There's 5 of them. Number 1, advertise. Number 2, target marketing. So you send out postcards or just listed cards to the neighbor to listings, or just sold to neighbor to sales. Number 3, you could farm an area using the postal service. Number 4, past customers and referrals. And number 5, website. Now here's what it really comes down to. Proactive, it doesn't cost you as much, but you have to be involved. You have to do something. Reactive is you have to spend a little, you got it, a little bit of money. See, the thing is, proactive is now. Things are happening now. Reactive, you're waiting for things to come back to you. So you should work at mastering all 10 ways. But for now, let's see if we can get a couple of them going for you. First thing I want to do is I want to talk about proactive benefits. Some of the benefits are an increase in net. You will actually make more money in less time. Number 2 is it's better for time management. Number 3, as I said a few moments ago, you're not waiting. If you're talking with a potential client right now, it's now. Number 4, it helps you to stay in control of your income, which helps you to stay in control of your career. Number 5, it's your choice, proactive or reactive. Now, if you want to make some now money, obviously you should go right into proactive. There's another thing I'd like to point out is that a lot of people just don't like to do it. You know, I have no doubt in my mind that if there was a group of us that got into a room and did the old-fashioned cold calling and just started calling and calling and calling, I'm sure we'd make a lot of money. In fact, I know we would make a lot of money. But the truth of the matter is that most of us just don't like to do it. So even if you like it once in a while or want to do it once in a while, we still need to master the reactive part of it. We have to get people calling you. So let's go through the 7 keys of proactive prospecting first, then we'll get into the reactive. First of all, start early. Top producers do. They get in and they book their appointments. Number 2, don't sell, maybe eliminate. Just like when I gave you that example last week of calling someone. Hello, Mr. Smith. This is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I'm just calling to make sure you're not thinking of selling. Try that one. That's pretty good. Number 3 is target high turnover areas. You know, I've taught this so many times in my class, and I've seen the odd real estate agent that said to me, you know what, I'm going to go over to this other area where there's no signs. And I always say this, well, there's a reason there's no signs over there. So go to high turnover areas. That's where the properties are selling. Number 4, when you're on the phone, smile and have a conversation. Stand if needed. Get a long cord on your phone. Makes a big difference. I don't know how, but it seems like they can see if you're smiling or not. So get rid of the pit bull look. Number 5, what do you do if you get voicemail? Well, here, make sure that you write this down. And word for word, if you say this, you will get about 20, maybe even 25% of the people will call you back. So here it goes. Hello, this is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I have a real estate matter to discuss with you. When it's convenient, please call me back. Use your number. Thank you very much and have a great day. If you use it word for word, you will get 20 to 25% callbacks. If you change any of the words, I've seen it in the past. Some agents will come to my classes, the next lesson, and they'll say, you know, no one called me. And what they've done is this. They've called and give the reason. They've said, hello, this is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I was just calling to see if you wanted to sell your house, and the reason is we just listed. And they'd use that whole track, and what happens is nobody calls them back. What they do is if they're thinking of selling, they'll call somebody else. So believe me, let me say it one more time for you because it's so important. It goes like this. Hello, this is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I have a real estate matter to discuss with you. When it's convenient, please call me back at 1-877-404-1500. Thank you and have a great day. Word for word. Number 6, follow the process from last week. We're going to expand on this lesson as well. Number 7, book your prospecting time in advance, just like an appointment. In fact, if you're talking to somebody on the phone and they're saying, call us back, I was saying in the class, you can put your lips together and kiss that one goodbye. But anyways, what you could do is just make tentative appointments. Okay, let's get into the prospecting track here. We touched on it a little bit last week. And it basically goes like this. Number 1 is the approach. And we're going to talk about that, and there's 5 steps in that. After we've gone through the approach, we have a fair trade, and then we're going to close. I say close, meaning cha-ching, because you're going to make some money probably, 3 times. So the approach goes like this. Last week we talked about step 1 was to identify the prospect. Step 2, introduce yourself. Step 3, ask if they're interested in selling or buying. Or better yet, eliminate them. As you recall, we just went over that. Step 4, give a reason for the call. And step 5, ask again in a different way. Now, in a moment, we'll go over what do you do if you get no's and what do you do if you get a yes. But we went over some boxes. And what it looked like was there was 3 boxes on one side and 5 on another. And on these boxes, we put down approach and an arrow over to ID, intro, ask, reason, ask. And I recommended that you have this reproduced on a piece of paper and put it by your phone to stay on track. So let's carry on here. So last week, what we did was just get you started. We went over the approach just basically, and we told you to identify the prospect, introduce yourself, ask if they're thinking of selling, give a reason, and we might have said a few things, but we really didn't teach you anything yet on that, and ask again a different way. So let me go into the possible reasons you could be calling somebody. The first one is possibly neighbor to listing, I call it, or just listed. And the track went like this on that. It said, "Hello, Mr. Smith. This is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I was just calling to make sure you weren't thinking of selling." "No, we're not." "Well, the reason I called is I just listed a property in your neighborhood. Would you consider selling if you got the right price?" The next one was neighbor to sold. So it would be, "We just sold a property in your neighborhood." You could say, "Would you consider selling if you got the right price?" But if you've already talked to them, use your own discretion. Okay, number 3 is the client approach. I believe that's the best approach. So when you're calling someone and you say, "Hello, Mr. Smith, this is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I'm just calling to make sure you're not thinking of selling," and they say, "No, we're not. The reason I'm calling is I have a client that loves your neighborhood and would like to look at some properties in that area. Would you consider selling if you got the right price?" That one works best. Now, I know some of you get hit with this. They'll say, "Well, why don't you bring them over?" A couple of things you could say. We got to hold our grounds real firm here, because if you just start taking buyers over to properties that are not on the market, you could run into some problems here. So maybe you say something like this: "I'm sorry, but I only work on properties that are on MLS." Or if they said, "Do you think your buyer would like our house?" You say, "I don't know, I haven't seen your house yet. Let's get together." There's a little bit more, and we'll go over it in the class, but let's move on here. Number 4, open house. The reason you're calling is to either notify them on the open house or to follow up on an open house that they were at. Number 5, newsletter, following up on a newsletter. Maybe it's a past client, or maybe it's a flyer follow-up. You could be sending flyers out to a specific neighborhood. Number 6, website. Could be a website inquiry or a follow-up on that. It's just one more step, because you know what? They've kind of contacted you through the website. You've printed off an input form, and we've got a whole section in one of the lessons where we're talking about internet and how to capture leads. So let's leave that for now and move on to the next part. So let me ask you a question. What do you do when they say yes? In other words, you call them, you say, "Hello, mister. This is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I'm just calling to see if you're interested in buying or selling." And they say yes. What do we do then? Some people would stop right there and try to close too quickly. Don't want to do that, because you'll get people say, "Well, hold on a second, we'll call you back later," or "Call me tomorrow." So instead of doing that, as soon as they say, "Yes, we want to sell," we need to go to the next step and give the reason for calling. Like I said, "Are you interested in selling?" "Yes, we are." "Okay, well, the reason I call is we just listed a home in your neighborhood." Great. Isn't that great? And then we're going to start to ask some open-ended questions. I call them W5, and you've heard of that before probably. And the who, what, where, whens, and why. This way, if you get the sellers to start talking, the chances of you booking an appointment increase a lot. So let's back up again. What if you ask them if they're interested in selling and they say no? What do? Don't skip a step. Remember that saying, the elevator to success is out of order. We must take it one step at a time. You will actually give the reason anyways. "Hello, Mr. Smith. It's Dwayne Groom from ABC. Are you interested in selling?" "No, we're not. The reason I'm calling is we just listed a home. Would you consider selling if you got the right price?" What if you get a weak yes right there? What would you do then? You might start asking some open-ended questions. But if we get a no, we'll make our next contact. Well, what do we do then when they say they want to wait? To me, that's a weak yes. You would say 2 words to help keep you on track, which is "no problem," and start asking some open-ended questions. I'm going to show you how that works right away here. Okay, so here's some questions that we want to ask. So somebody said, "Yes, we're thinking of selling," or we're thinking of selling, but maybe not till next year. So we would say "no problem." And the first question is this. Number 1, where were you planning on moving? Number 2, what type of home were you hoping to buy? Number 3, when would you like to be in your new home? Number 4, what price range home do you live in? And number 5, which is the optional question, by the way, and I'll explain in a second, is why is your home not on the market today? So let me back up again and give you an example. First thing you do is identify the prospect. Then you introduce yourself. Then you ask, are you interested in, or eliminate them? And they'll say, "Yes, we're thinking of selling." Great, because the reason is we just listed a home in your neighborhood. Where were you planning on moving to? So you see, when you ask the questions, What you do is you get them to start talking. Now, what do most people like to talk about? They love to talk about themselves or their plans, right? So this part here is designed to get them to open up a little bit. If you skip this step, just like I said earlier, you're closing too soon. And they'll go like this, well, you know what, let us think about it for a while. But if you get them to talk to you, see, you're just a voice on the phone right now. And if you get them to talk to you, you start to almost become a friend in a way. And they start to tell you a whole bunch of stuff. And you're going to hear this a few times throughout the 8 weeks. The best realtors in the world are not the best talkers. They're the best listeners. Okay, so let's go back to those questions here. So I had number 1 through 5, and I said number 5 is optional. So for people that are actually thinking of selling, but they don't have it on the market yet, think about this for a second. Here, let's go like this. Let's start out with saying, where were you planning on moving to? Let's say they're moving over to Kensington. And you say, oh, nice area. What type of home were you hoping to buy there? Well, we wanted a bungalow. Great. Bungalows are great, or whatever way you comment. But always comment and don't get a conversation out of each question. In fact, I'm going to show you how to ask questions like a professional. Number 3, when would you like to be in your new home? Well, we were thinking of, and they give you a date that's just a couple months down the road. Now, you know they're running out of time, but they haven't put it on the market yet. They haven't even mentioned if they're trying to sell it privately, if they've talked to anybody. So number 4, you say, well, what price range home do you live in? And they say, well, we figure our home is worth X amount. Okay, great. Now, they've told you where they were planning on moving to. They told you what type of home they were hoping to buy. They told you when they'd like to be in their new home, and they kind of give you a price. So question 5, you'd say this. So I just have a question. I just need to know why your home isn't on the market today. Because think about this for a second. They know where, they know what, they know when, and they even gave you a price. So question 5 would make sense asking at that time. So I got a question for you. Why are open-ended questions used? The answer is this is to get expanded information. So as I mentioned earlier, you want to get them to start talking because the best realtors in the world are the best listeners. It's still also to get expanded information. Another question I have for you is this. Why are yes/no questions used? The answer is this. It's to tie down or to get clarification. So let me give you an example. If I could show you that by waiting till next year, you could actually lose some money, would you reconsider? You see, the fear of loss is a greater motivator than the opportunity to gain. And when you understand human nature, sales will become easier. Okay, let me give you an example of something here. After we ask the open-ended questions to get expanded information, it's time for us to offer something so that we can book an appointment. I call that the fair trade. And in a few minutes, we'll go over the fair trade concept and a few other things. But I'm thinking this, if I could actually show you how a tool that we use called the possible costs of waiting, how it actually works on the appointment, it should make you more confident on the phone. So let's take a few minutes for that because, see, after you ask those questions and you've asked the who, what, where, when, why, your track, or in other words, the dialogue that you'll say is that, well, if I could show you that by waiting, you might be actually losing some money, would you reconsider? You might get a yes or a no. Let's pretend you get a yes. Let me show you how to use this when you're on the appointment. First of all, the possible costs of waiting. In the class, we had you take a few minutes to work out how this works, and we role-played it. And on the list, it went like this. There was 10 possible costs to waiting. Number 1 was interest rates might go up, and that's true. Now, remember this, as a side note, you need to make sure you understand that in sales, you don't have to prove the future. You just need to show them what might happen. So the first one again was interest rates might go up. Number 2, your home might be worth less. Number 3, new home costs will be more. They always are, by the way. Number 4, the law of supply and demand. Number 5, renovate and lose money. Number 6, could be a tax or political change. Number 7, costs of marketing. Number 8, double house payments. Number 9, lost in the shuffle. And number 10, job stability. Now, not all of these are going to apply for everybody. So the best thing for you to do to come up with a dollar amount for each one is to work with them. In fact, get them to participate. See, another rule of thumb or a side note that you're going to hear throughout the program is that, you know what, when you say it, they doubt it. When they say it, they believe it's true. So why don't we take the time to educate them and actually have this page or this possible costs of waiting, have it in front of them and say, well, what do you think? And if they say, well, interest rates probably won't go up, and say, okay, well, then there's probably no dollar value we can put in there. But if they did, let's pretend that they did go up 1%. And if they were looking to buy something, you know, how much more would they be paying per month? Or if there's any buyers that are trying to consider buying their home, it could knock them right out of their price range. So it's just a few things you want to point out to them that could happen. Okay, so in the class, we wanted to make sure that you role-played the possible costs of waiting so that it would give you the confidence so that when you're on the phone, you know that if you're going to offer it, you at least know what to do with it. But let's get into the fair trade concept for a second. What is a fair trade? Well, the answer to that is that a fair trade is that you will perform a valuable service for the seller. And in return, the seller must do something for you. That's fair trade, yes? Okay, so what do you expect from the seller? Well, I would expect them to at least listen to your presentation or at least how you market homes for sale, and that they would at least give you enough time, that they're not in a hurry or they have some appointment for a half hour after you get there, something like that. And we'll walk through how you get enough time. Okay, let me just take 1 minute here just to recap where we're at, and then we're going to go into the close. In other words, close for the appointment. First thing is, like I said, the approach is this. ID the caller, introduce yourself, ask if they want to sell or eliminate them, give the reason that you called, and if you keep getting no's, you just ask one more way, which is, do they know of anybody else? You make your next call. If you get a weak yes or a yes in there, you start asking the open-ended questions. Get them to start talking. And when they've started to give you a bunch of information or expanded information as we talked, we're going to offer them a fair trade. So in there, if somebody says, we just want to wait probably until the summer. We just want to wait until next year, whatever it is. You say, no problem. Where were you thinking of moving to? And you ask those open-ended questions. And then finally, close. And the closed dialogue goes like this. Why don't we do this? I don't mind. We could schedule a time when we can get together. And while I'm there, I can go over the possible costs to waiting. That way, you can see if you should list now or wait as you planned. I'm available tonight at 6, or would 7 be better? Now, in the class, I also mentioned that there's magic in threes. And the reason I say that is this. Remember, you're just a voice on the phone right now. So when they say, you know, we just want to wait till next year, and then you have kind of you offer something, they still might just say that, well, you know what, we also are thinking of maybe renovating. Now, we don't want to become a pushy salesperson, but we don't want to lose business either. So let me explain this for a second here. You've said that you could show them something that will help them decide if they should list now or wait. And I think that's great, because we're just going over to educate people, not to get people to do something they don't want to do. I just want to be clear on that. But they still might say, well, you know what, we'll call you, or can you call us in a week or 2 weeks? Because we're thinking of maybe renovating. So they give you another reason why they maybe don't want to get together. What you could do is say this. You could say, well, what I could do is not only come over and go over the costs of waiting, but I've also got a list of how renovations work, meaning that whatever you put into the home, what kind of a return you get on different, renovations on kitchens or bathrooms, and I could show you that. And if tonight's not good, I could maybe see you on Saturday or Friday, or would Saturday be better? So you're kind of closing a second time. So the way it works is this. You would do that up to 3 times. And as a side note, maybe make a note of this. If you try to close more than 3 times, you are just a pushy salesperson. And if you ask less than 3 times, you're just losing business. Okay, so now where we're at is that let's pretend that we've closed and the appointment is set up for 7 o'clock tonight. Don't hang up yet, whatever you do, because I want to show you something that'll save you a ton of time. I call it the 1 stop versus the 2 stop. In other words, when you go on an appointment, we want to make sure that we have bona fide that appointment. And I need you to understand a few things. I want to show you how to bona fide an appointment. See, the number one thing we need to understand is the difference between socializing and selling. And there's an old biblical story. It goes like this. Samson slew 10,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass. And in real estate, there are dozens and dozens of deals lost each week with the same weapon. So you know what? I've seen agents talk themselves into a listing and talk themselves right out of a listing. So don't do that. Number 2, there is no such thing as a specific price for a specific property. So we're going to use a price range. Number 3, sellers never agree with your price. They always think it's higher. Number 4, make adjustments at the house. So we're going to show you how there's a high and a low part of the range. But it really comes down to this. The one-stop appointment saves time, and time is money. So let's get into the bona fide appointment checklist. The bona fide appointment checklist, if you have those boxes in front of you, you got 3 on one side, 5 on the other. The top of the left-hand side goes with an approach, an arrow over to ID, introduce, ask, reason ask. And then we have questions coming back to the fair trade. Then we close, cha-ching, 3 times. And once we've got the appointment, we need to bona fide the appointment. So what we do is this. We just say, could I ask you a couple of questions just to get my homework done? They say, sure. First thing you need to do is ask them if all the decision makers are present. Not just the people on title, but the decision makers. Number 2, make sure that they are interested in selling. Number 3, you want to get enough information for a CMA. Number 4, schedule enough time. One of the things you could do is book a window, which works great. Number 5, you know the price range home they live in. Now, there's a couple of things here. Typically, most real estate agents will think, well, they won't tell me. The funny thing is, when you ask, a high percentage of them just react and tell you. Now, if they say, you know what, I don't know what my home's worth, you might want to do this. Here's a couple of things. One, you could say, well, what I'm going to do when we take your information, we want to look on the computer and take off sales in the area that are in a range similar to what your home might be worth. So if we put in a range of, let's say, and you set a number like, let's say, 400,000 or 500,000 or whatever it is, and 500,000 to 550, would your home be in that range just so we could take off the proper information for the appointment? They might say, yeah, then you know that their home's in that range. That's great. Or they may say, oh, no, our home's worth more than that. You say, about how much? Well, at least the 550 to 600. If you get my idea, that'll work just fine for you. Another one is the magic wand technique, where you could just say, you know what? If you're not sure exactly how much it is, let me ask you this. If you had a magic wand and you could just wave it, being realistic, of course, or how much would you want to get for your home? Now, you notice I said those words, being realistic, of course. Just kind of slip that in. It kind of helps. Number 6, you know their mortgage balance. Now, why do we need to know that? You know, they may not even tell you on the phone. That's okay, but you should ask. The reason you want to do that is so that you know that you're going to get paid. So that's how the bona fide appointment checklist works. So let's leave it there for now. And I'd like to move in another direction again and talk about the for sale by owner. In fact, I believe there's an evolution of the for sale by owner. For example, have you ever noticed that when somebody starts thinking about selling their house, first thing they're doing is saying, well, if you don't have to have a realtor involved, maybe we can save on the, commissions, right? Or maybe they can net a little bit more. So they race over to Home Depot and they buy these little for sale by owner signs and they put it on their lawn, and they might put one out at the corner there to direct people there. And you've seen them before, and a lot of times they're handwritten with the phone number. The thing is that my thinking is the evolution is that if it doesn't sell, that sign actually changes into something else. And you've seen it in different communities. It's called something different, but it really means help you sell, kind of a helpyousell.com thing. So you pay your $500 and they put your property in a magazine, maybe on the internet. They don't negotiate for you. It's called a for sale by owner, help you sell type company. And, you know, we're going to go into some of the truths or some of the awarenesses of the for sale by owner. So let's pretend that when they tried to sell privately, it didn't work. And then they went to use helpyousell.com and it didn't work. The next thing you know, you see another sign. It's the discount broker. You know, the ones that do it for less. And typically you'll see sometimes that doesn't sell there either. The next sign that goes up is your sign. And you know what? Finally, your sign turns into a sold sign. So here, if you'd like to master hitting the home run with the for sale by owner, remember this, 658. And what that stands for is the 6 awarenesses, the 5 requirements, and the 8 reasons that you can actually put more money in their pocket. So let's start with the awarenesses first. Number 1, 7 out of 10 will list with real estate. It's probably higher than that. So back on that evolution of the for sale by owner, again, there's a few that might sell in different stages there. But 7 out of 10 will list with real estate. Number 2 is that you need to follow up. Now, according to NAR, you need about 7 touches, because you know what? Think about this. If you're a for sale by owner, or if you met a for sale by owner, when they first put up that sign, doesn't matter what you say. It's like you're talking to inattention. They are just so excited and pumped up about doing it on their own that it doesn't even matter what you say. Here's the thing. 2 weeks later, they feel a little bit different about the whole process. So keep in touch if they'll let you. Number 3, it's the same process when you're working with for sale by owners on a listing appointment, for example, but there's some words that are a little different. Number 4, out of 6 awarenesses, we're at number 4. You need to believe that you can put more money in their pocket. Now, in class today, you may have seen me say, hey, how many of you believe that you can put more money in their pocket? Let me see a show of hands. And a small percentage of the class would have put up their hands. Most people wouldn't unless they knew the 6, 5, 8. By the time I'm finished with the 8 reasons, and as you saw in the class today, when I said, how many of you believe now, a larger number of hands went up. See, you need to believe that you can put more money in their pocket. Number 5 is this. Don't be fooled by their price. On the phone, they might say, my house is worth $1 million and it's only worth $400,000, let's say. Or $2 million and it's only worth $1 million. Whatever it is, don't be fooled by the price. Remember, the phone is only meant for one thing. What is it? The phone is meant to set up the appointment. Number 6, full-service real estate has been around over 150 years. So that's the 6 awarenesses. Now let's go into the 5 requirements here. If we're going to book the appointment, what do we need in place to be able to do it right? Well, the first thing is we need to schedule enough time. If you can't get enough time, just don't go. It doesn't make sense to go there, run around the house, give them a price and leave. If they won't give you enough time, don't go. Number 2 is get into the door honestly. If you have a buyer, let them know you have a buyer. If you don't have one, don't say you do. Number 3, determine which one wants to list and become an ally. Now, you know what? It usually seems like, and I can say this because I'm a man, but it seems like most men are the ones that seem to be stubborn and just want to be able to sell it themselves. The thing is they get so busy, they don't even realize it, that while they're out working, do they expect their wife just to let any stranger in the house or their kids or anything like that? So there's a couple examples we're going to go over, because number 4 says sell the security factor. Now, we're not going to try to scare them into a listing, but we're definitely going to let them know about a few things to watch out for in the big cities nowadays, right? And number 5 is to get them to listen to the 8 reasons you can put more money in their pocket, and in less time, I might add. So again, we're talking the 6, 5, 8. So I went through the 6 awarenesses, the 5 requirements. Now let's get into the 8 reasons why you can sell their home for more money in less time. The first reason is the law of supply and demand. Now they say the greater demand for a property, the higher the price. The more people that are interested in buying a property, the chances are that you'll get a higher price. Number 2, we have more prospects. So think about this. A for sale by owner has to ask themselves, well, how many prospects do I have? How many lookers? You might ask them, how many lookers have you had so far? They typically might say between 15 and 20. Depends on which contact this is, if it's the second or third time you've been talking to them. But you know what? We have more prospects, don't we? Now, how many realtors work in your area? Just to make this easy, some of you might have 1,500 work in your area. Some of you might have 5,000. Some of you might have 10,000. But I just want to use 4,000 for now, just for this example. So how many, if you were to write down that the number of realtors that work in your area is 4,000, you could say that, typically each realtor has about 10 current prospects on file. Okay, and that doesn't mean they're able to buy or willing. That just means they have at least 10. And if you take 4,000 realtors with at least 10 on file, that's like 40,000 potential clients. Now, the real estate board average, again, you're going to have to do some research here, but I was trying to give you some numbers here that you can work with so you can get an idea how this works. The average market time might be 30 days. Hot market might be less. Colder market might be a little longer. But you know what? This is a very, very high number. We're going to write this down, and at this point, you just put it aside. So you're going to say to the for sale by owner, this is a large number. I just want to point out how it works with the realtors, and we'll just put that number aside. The third reason is this. The longer it takes, the more money lost. For example, we talked about the possible cost to waiting. So if you were able to take out that sheet and go over it, remember, number one on that was that interest rates could go up at any given time. It could affect where they're buying it. It could affect the buyers buying their homes. So there could be a number you put in there. Number two, new homes increase in value, and it costs more if they're going to have to wait. Number three, when rates go up, existing properties go down. Number four, you might end up with 2 house payments. 5, what does it cost to try and market your home privately? Number 6, cost of personal time. See, we don't cost as much as you think. Number 4, the fourth reason is this: serious buyers shop for sale by owners to save the commission. So there's a question you might want to ask them. You can ask them, so I'm just curious, why are you selling privately? And they'll say, well, we want to save on the commissions, or we want to net, we got to net every penny we can. One of the things you could do is this, is you can mention to them that typically serious buyers shop for sale by owners to save on the commission. So what they're up against is this. When the serious buyers are shopping around, they're going to approach them and say, okay, well, it looks like your home is worth this much. And that might sound good to the seller, but then they'll say, so if you take off the commissions because there's no realtor, you got a deal. So it really comes down to this. The seller has to say, well, do I pay the buyer and do all the work myself, or do they pay you, the realtor, and get you to do all the work? I think that's a great question to ask and a good point to make to them. Another question you could do is ask them, I'm just curious, when you bought your house, this is reflecting back on the buyers shopping to save on the commission. You say, well, when you bought your house, did you buy it privately or MLS? It almost doesn't matter which way they ask, because if they said privately, typically they probably tried to do it to save on money as well. Or if they said we went through MLS, it was because they wanted to use a professional. And a professional can bring you so many things. For example, there's certain services that all of us realtors offer free of charge. Let me go through a few of them here. And you know what? If you were to have a little bit of a checklist here and see what they do as opposed to what you do to attract buyers, believe me, you would win hands down. Some services provided is, well, you might do an introductory meeting. Of course, they wouldn't. You would take agency relationship and spell it out for them. You would take the information on all the other houses in their price range. You might include financial options, save the buyer some money. There's a good way to be able to get people to want to talk to you. You would have maybe financing pre-approval arranged. You might even tour the buyer around to look at potential properties so they can compare one to the other. Work out the cost for purchase, even supply market evaluation so they can see where they should write the offer, what price it should be at. You will draft up the agreement of purchase and sale. You'll negotiate on the buyer's behalf, arrange all the financial details, even stay in contact with the buyer's lawyer, and you probably have a after-sale follow-up program. See, realtors supply all these services at no cost to the buyer. So let's get into reason 5 here for a second. Realtors are trained to separate the lookers from the buyers. And so there's a pie chart that we went over at the last lesson. And when I wrote on it, I put down that, well, by the way, when you're showing this, you might want to stop and say to the sellers, you remember that 40,000 prospects that we had? Well, here's how we separate the lookers from the buyers. So on that pie chart I showed you, which was provided by the National Association of Realtors, I might add, was that 70% have frozen equity. In other words, they have to sell their house before they can buy another one. So you're literally taking off 70% of the 40,000 already. By the way, how many potential lookers did they say they had again? 15 or 20? Keep that in mind. So on the pie chart there, we also went into that 10% can't even afford in that price range. 15% prefer to rent. I don't know if they're looking for decorating ideas or even worse, scoping out the place. But the pie chart broke it all down that there was only 4% literally that were ready, willing, and able to sign a contract when? Today. So if I take 4% of 40,000 prospects, I end up with 1,600 potential buyers. Now you still have to understand that they might want to be in a different neighborhood. There's a couple other variables in there, but let's pretend that it was at 1,600 buyers. So you say, well, the industry shows that there's a potential 1,600 buyers. But let me ask you this. What is 4%? Now I took 4% of my 40,000 and ended up with 1,600. Let's take 4% of your buyers or lookers. You said you had 20? What's 4% of 20? Well, if you do the math, it's 0.8. It's not even one buyer. Well, how many buyers do you need to buy a house? You need at least one, and they're at 0.8. Okay, reason 6 is this. Third-party negotiating saves money. Now, ask them a question. Just say, hey, have you ever sold something privately yourself? How do you feel about lowball offers? Whoa, think about that. They want $500,000 for their house, and somebody comes in and says, we'll give you $350,000. For sale by owner, do you think they're going to get emotionally involved? Think about that for a second. But let me give you a couple other reasons here that third-party negotiating saves money. One, a real estate agent understands the needs of both the buyer and the seller. Number two, real estate agents are knowledgeable about market values. Number three, real estate agents do not get emotionally involved. See that question we asked earlier to the seller, how do you feel about lowball offers? You got to understand that they have memories in this home. They've lived there for a while. They've seen their kids grow up, or they've repaired some things, and the value they have in that in their mind is totally different. So when somebody hits them with a real lowball offer, and if they get emotionally involved in it, they might just say, we're not interested in talking to you. But for real estate agents, you know what? It sounds like they're interested, and they're probably just trying to get the price down. So what you would do is just take them into the office, sit down, and maybe you could show them a CMA to show them where they should at least offer a reasonable price. Number four, a real estate agent is a trained negotiator who will respond to your needs. Reason number seven, marketing strategies equal exposure, which equals more money. Now, what are some services that real estate agents use to sell houses? I'll give you a couple of examples right now. Well, we use the MLS system. We've got the World Wide Web. We have high-profile office location possibly. We have national, maybe even international advertising, local advertising, sign identity, some in-house mortgage financing. You can let the sellers know that maybe you can save them some money also. Ongoing training like the productivity challenge that you're in right now, national relocation company, open houses you do, and maybe an agent caravan. And of course, they've got you to be able to help sell their house. And, a trained professional can offer you so much more. And finally, reason number 8, security equal peace of mind. So here's 5 questions you could ask them. You could say, how do you ask someone to confirm with you that they are who they say they are before they even come through your house? Number 2, how do I confirm whether or not they are tire kickers or even qualified for the financing to purchase your home? Number 3, do you remove the sign from the front lawn, or do you just invite strangers to come to your door when you're not home? Number 4, what is your time worth relative to all the things you could be doing with your family? And number 5, is all the work really worth it when there's no savings in the long run? Even if it costs money, is it still worth it? But you know what? I can assure you, you're going to show them that there is no savings in the long run. People have been hiring professional agents for more than 150 years. And anything that's been around that long must have good value. Okay, now that we went over the for sale by owner a little bit, I just wanted to start to talk about some more fair trade items. We gave you one earlier called the costs associated with waiting, and I'd like to give you 10 more. Some of them are relevant to the for sale by owner. So here's some of the fair trade items that we talked about in class. First of all, CMA. And the usage for a CMA was that it could educate them and go over the area sales. The second one is a financial analysis. You could actually break it down to net and show them what they have to work with. Number 3 could be a time analysis, and that goes back to the costs associated with waiting anyways. By the way, when's the best time for them to list their home? Now. Yeah, because now you have the facts. Number 4, showings or giving them tips on open houses. That would help a for sale by owner. Number 5 is advertising tips, again helping a for sale by owner. Number 6, saleability tips, also helping a for sale by owner. And number 7, a security checklist helping the for sale by owner. Now those 4, the last 4, number 4, 5, 6, and 7, are really designed to help a for sale by owner actually sell their house without a real estate agent. So you're thinking, why would I do that? Well, I just actually showed you the easy approach to maybe get in the door of a for sale by owner by actually saying to them, you know what, I could show you how to, and there's the open house tips, advertising tips, saleability tips, and the securities checklist. And when you go in to offer this information, a couple of things happen. First of all, they realize how much is really involved, so they might even want to list. Or you could say to them, you know what, the reason I'm doing it is because I'm thinking if I could help you sell your place when you're thinking of buying, if you want to buy something, you might use me, or you might refer some other people, or next time you go to sell, maybe you'll consider me. So that's the easy approach. I actually like the tough approach even better, where it could be, if I could prove to you I could put more money in your pocket, would you at least want to get together and talk about it? And sometimes that's even better. Number 8 was the estimate of renovations. You know, the usage of that is to show them that there could be a financial loss. You know that old saying, invest a nickel and get a dime in return? Otherwise it wouldn't make sense. I've actually seen it where it shows that if you renovate a kitchen and you want to sell right now, every $5,000 you put into the kitchen, you only get $3,500 return. That wouldn't make sense. By the way, on the other hand, paint seems to have a good return. Number 9, a comparison chart. The comparison chart is another fair trade item you can use. It makes it look like you've done the shopping for them, but on your end, it actually knocks out the competition. And number 10 is a saleable checklist. And the usage is for expireds and to help make a home more saleable. So let's get into the weekly activity for you. Very similar to last week, and there's a few changes. The first thing I want you to do is go into the office early, 9 a.m., prospect a minimum of 5 days a week. Number 2, book at least 3 listing appointments each week. Number 3, very important again, keep track of your production on your program production page A7. Remember, that's the one that you keep track of all your sales, your listings. That's for transactions and dollar volume. Make sure you keep that updated. We're going to need that for the end of the program. Number 4, bring in your completed weekly report, page A6, signed by your broker or manager. Remember, again, for the accountability. You want to make more money, don't you? And hand it in to your assistant team captain no later than 9:30 a.m. Or if you're going to be running a few minutes late, fax it in the night before. Number 5, add another 25 names to your sphere of contact list. Remember I said last week we're going somewhere with this. Number 6, reproduce the possible costs to waiting on your company letterhead. Number 7, maintain your bona fide appointment checklist. In fact, I would take that checklist and have it by your phone. Number 8, reproduce the for sale by owner 8 reasons on your company letterhead. Put that in the back of a binder, which is going to be your listing presentation, and we'll work on that in the following weeks. Number 9, create some visuals for the additional fair trade items and put them in the back of that book as well. And number 10, schedule a minimum of 1 day off, no business, just for yourself, recharge, family, all that stuff. Number 11, listen to Lesson 2 CD a minimum of 3 times. Now that you have your weekly activity, I'd like to read something to you called a thought. Tell me who or what I am. I am your constant companion. I am your greatest helper or your heaviest burden. I will push you onward or drag you down to failure. I am completely at your command. Half the things you do, you might as well turn over to me, and I will be able to do them quickly and correctly. I am easily managed. You must merely be firm with me. Show me exactly how you want something done, and after a few lessons, I will do it automatically. I am a servant of all great humans and an ally of all failures as well. Those who are great I have made great, and those who are failures I have made failures. I am not a machine, though I work with the precision of a machine, plus the intelligence of a human. You may run me for profit or run me for ruin, it makes no difference to me. Take me, train me, be firm with me, and I will put the world at your feet. But be easy with me, and I will destroy you. Who am I? Well, the right answer is, I am a habit. And the moral of this is, today we start building good habits. If you take good habits along with routine and enthusiasm, they equal results. And results equals more money. And more money makes for a happier you. Yes? So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. God bless you. Have a super week.